Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Rogue Company Championship Series. I am Rome DMV. This time, joined alongside somebody that I have known for a couple years in Rogue Company now. He's been running the EU side of things. I've been running the NA side of things, and now finally we're working together, man. GK, how you doing, man?
I'm
How's it
doing
feel?
good, man. Like you said, it's so good to be up on this desk with you. It feels like a long time coming, man. We've spoke about Rogue since the start up of the game, right? And we're now on desk to each other with each other at the LAN. I'm happy to be here, man. And we've experienced so much great gameplay and the tournament setup and all the formats. Shout out you for really working hard to do that. It just feels so great and feels so wholesome to be here on this desk right now.
It's an absolute treat to have you here yet again. And now it's time to get spicy. We're going to be jumping right into our ladies' main event. This one is going to be good. Let's go ahead and take a look at the schedule real quick so we can get a quick rundown on the entire day and what has led us up to this point. First of all, we had Black Hand winning 2-0 over High Caliber. Then we had Rome's Bandits taking out Aerial Arise in shocking fashion in map number 3. And then we saw High Caliber versus Little Geek. High Caliber, they absolutely came out on fire. We're able to take that one. And then we saw the upset of the day. By far, this one, in my opinion, I thought Rome's Bandits over Aerial was the upset of the day. I'll give Prestige Rogue Wide over Rome's Bandits the upset of the day. That one really was surprising. And, I mean, listen, that's going to be wrapping up the main event. But now, GK, it's time. Let's talk about the ladies. We've got Antimatter Gaming, consisting of Alcoholzy and Wolfie, going to be going up against HTK Esports, consisting of Miss Miller Ray and Brittany Bad.
So this is going to be our first stream of the ladies' side of the tournament and their tournament. This is really exciting, man. Just to even have this right now at LAN, super excited to see it. But now, even specifically going into this match, it's interesting, right? Because both these teams have had a bit of a rocky start in their tournament so far, both losing 0-6. HTK losing 0-6 against Rome's Bandits, shout out Rome's Bandits, Antimatter losing 0-6 against Insight, right? So now they're on the state where they both haven't won their games and they haven't done well at all. So do they now bring that courage up from within and win this next match, or do they just accept that they're not here to win, right? So this is that map.
Yeah, precisely. We saw Wolfie and Alcoholzy. They lost 3-0. 3-0 to Fear Jess and Golden off stream. And then also HTK Esports, Brittany Bad and Miss Miller Ray, they lost 3-0 and then 3-0 in round count to Favorite and Alley. So off stream, we've got two teams that haven't lost a round and two teams that haven't won a round. And now, for the first match of the ladies, we're going to be getting both of the teams that haven't won a round. So something's got to give right here now.
I think it's going to be really tight, man. Like, both of them have probably learned from the games they've just played, right? This is what we did wrong, and this is what we need to do right. So this is their comeback game for both of them, and it's not something you usually see. You usually see someone who's won a few games or is doing well playing against a team that needs to come back up. But we're seeing two underdogs here fighting for that true underdog position.
Precisely, and as you see on your screen, that's going to be Brittany Bad, the one and only. A lot of these ladies, you've seen them stream, you've been in their content, you follow them on Twitter, and now it's time for them to have the opportunity to show out at LAN. First of all, I just want to say thank you to Hi-Rez for even allowing this idea that I had to even come to fruition. It's absolutely beautiful to have these ladies out here competing, so big thank you to Hi-Rez, everyone behind the scenes that allowed this to happen, and now we get to see these ladies battle it out for a 2K prize pool, but not only that, it's going to be Wingman Strikeout. We didn't even talk about it, but that's going to be the game mode. We're going straight to the skirmish maps, 2v2 situations. It's going to be a good one. So, I mean, why wait? Let's go ahead and jump right into it right here and now. We're going to be sending it over to @Soka and Sonic for our first ladies match of the event.
Well, hello, and as they said on the desk, I am Captain @Soka, joined alongside Sonic. And Sonic, finally, we get to the ladies' side of the competition. Again, these are all content creators and people that we know as well. Of course, Wolfie, so we got to give her a hard time because she's got to be, putting on for the caster's desk here. So again, Sonic, what are your expectations going into this?
Oh, I mean, the expectations are going to be a little wild and rampant because, as they have spoke about, they've had some pretty tough matchups so far. And so, obviously, both teams want to do the most that they can to bounce back. And so, I'm looking forward to see how exactly they decide to prove themselves today. And so, now, I'm looking forward to see what exactly they do here on these skirmish maps because this is going to be quite a time. And as you can see here, we're going to start off with the rooftops, and we're going to go ahead and get right to it.
Now, you see, just off the cuff, like one thing that I'm thinking of, Juke. I want Juke on this because that repulsor being able to push people off the rooftops is absolutely insane. And, you know, now that we're talking about it, this is going to be so much different than what we have for our main event because it is going to be that 2v2 setup. So, again, it's going to be a lot more detailed than what we would see in a 4v4 because there's a lot more chaos going on. There's a lot more utilities being thrown. So, again, when it comes down to these picks here, it's going to be very difficult to really nail down what two rogues you want to have going into this fight.
Yeah, that's a pretty fair point. I think the most common thing that you're going to see at least one team or one person per team really focus on is that usually you want to always get someone that has gold bounce back because that is a perk that really can change up the game and change how you decide to attack your opponents because obviously once you have that, you're more willing to re-challenge someone after you've lost your health since you're going to get it back a lot quicker than normal. And so as you can see here, we have a Dahlia band and a Secret band. Obviously, everybody fears that shields up and everyone fears that Dahlia res as well as the gold bounce back. And so those are two pretty popular choices that are taken out of the game right away. And so now we have here a Vi, and that's going to be a pretty popular pick because after all, it's pretty easy for you to take control as well as hold team opponents back with the util and with the Vi pods.
Now, you see, I think that's kind of an interesting pick, though, because it's not really some heavy fragging rogues. You know, you're going to have Vi, who has a lot of control, and then you're going to have Glitch, who, of course, is going to try and counter any type of fragging coming out from HTK, and they're going to pick up a Scorch. I think that's a great pick, because when you're coming down to these gunfights, more often than not, it's actually going to be 1v1. And Scorch is fantastic at winning those 1v1 gunfights.
Very fantastic at winning those 1v1s, and as like I said before, both characters, Glitch and Scorch, has that gold bounce back, and so we're going to see pretty commonly that there's going to be at least one person with that character that has that specific perk, because at the end of the day, it is very, very crucial, especially in a mode like Strikeout. And as we can see here, we get right to the next pick, and it's going to be Demon, which is actually a pretty interesting pick. Not something that I necessarily seen that was going to happen in this particular matchup, but it does make sense because after all, I mean, there's a lot of people that like to really use the Demon bombs against the walls of rooftops, and so it makes really hiding and trying not to be too exposed in the open a little bit harder when you have to deal with those frag grenades that reveals you, as well as the EMPs and obviously that Demon bomb.
Yeah, again, it looks like they're just going to be going, again, for the utility-based gameplay with the Scorch having the mollies as well. Nothing more infuriating than when you're trying to take a point and all of a sudden you are set ablaze. And then, of course, on the other side, you know, again, we're looking at the Vi and Glitch. I'm surprised neither of these teams went for a more beefy character, someone with a lot of health that can really hold the line. I'm thinking of Trench in this instance, by the way.
Okay.
Trench is able to get their armor all the way up to gold. You know, they have a really big amount of health, not to mention they have the same nearly the same utility as Vi, being able to get the control down with the barbed wire. So, again, I'm surprised we aren't seeing a Trench pick here.
I mean, I suppose so. That's something that could have been used. I think that's just more of a no one's really comfortable with the type of deal here. So I'm not really sure who on each team would really want to go with the Trench. I know I haven't really seen Wolfie use Trench too often, as well as Alcoholzy. And then with Brittany Bad and Miller Ray, I mean, I don't really see them use Trench too often as well. But something that they definitely could have considered for sure, especially on this map. It's a lot harder for you to traverse between the rooftops when you have to deal with that barbed wire being out in the open in random spots for sure. And so that is actually a pretty fair point.
Yeah, and honestly, again, I would have loved to see Juke here just because I'm cheeky. You know, I love seeing the repulsor and someone go flying off the rooftops. So hopefully, maybe at some point today, or at least throughout the ladies tournament, we'll be able to see the Juke and the repulsor come into play. But without further ado, we're ready to get this game number one between Antimatter and HTK underway.
And here we go. And so the first objective here is going to actually be on the middle of the map, and so this is always an interesting one because there's so many different lanes all at once that you have to watch. And so we see here with Brittany Bag getting the immediate trade or kill there on Wolfie, getting that down with the almighty Hydra, and then we see the Dima bomb going crazy here as she goes ahead and get that damage.
Yeah, you got to keep in mind, though, we got Dima with the Hydra on deck. The Hydra, definitely one of the better assault rifles. As you can see, they are continuing to lay down the damage, and Brittany Bad is definitely Breaking Bad, being able to, again, sustain a lot of that early eliminations. But now it's going to be about controlling the point here.
Yes, and that's always a tough part on this specific objective for sure. I mean, Brittany has been going pretty crazy with the Hydra as everyone else is just rocking the LMPs as you would expect, or at least on the side of Glitch and Scorch. And so it's going to be interesting to see how exactly Brittany decides to continue to contest every single time that they try to go to the spawn or to the objective with that Hydra, getting as much damage as possible as they try to take control here again.
And I'm intrigued because we haven't really seen HTK play too much for the point, whereas they're mostly just trying to play frag, which makes sense because you want to get as many eliminations as possible, but at the same time, you can literally get a free elimination just by taking the point. And right now, the point has been majority in control of Antimatter Gaming.
Yeah, and that's what's keeping them into the game as of right now, and so it's very important to try to get those trades and get the team white, and then obviously get the objective immediately afterwards. And we see Brittany Bad taking down Alcoholzy yet again, and so far, Brittany is looking like she is just completely unstoppable with that Hydra, because even with the LMP challenging her, she's just taking care of it every single time.
Yeah, just wait until that we see Brittany Bad start to upgrade their util as well with the Dima
there's
ult
another
as
one.
well as the nades. Yeah, just dinging headshots from the cover.
Oh my
Like
goodness.
keeping their distance. You can see they're just playing mid-range all the while they're letting their teammate play closer range.
Yes, and Brittany Bad is the one that's actually playing, you know, closer range with the Hydra, which in this case you wouldn't really see, but Brittany is just absolutely doing what she can to frag out here. It's looking very impressive on her end for sure, as Miller Ray just does whatever she can to stay on site with the Scorch, because at the end of the day, she can't really be taken out by the, you know, fire nades, and so it's working pretty well to their advantage so far.
Yeah, and already you could tell that Alcoholzy and Wolfie know what is up. They know the plan here coming from Brittany Bad. So now they're trying to get her out of this spot. And finally they do, and they should be able to turn this around to a 2v1 advantage against their opponent there, the Scorch, that again is just continuing to hold the site.
Holding the site and just playing the objective. This is some great teamwork that we're seeing here, with one player just staying on objective while Brittany is just continuing to wreak havoc on the other team for sure. And so now Wolfie manages to take down Miller Ray, and so they may be able to go ahead and push this Dima and potentially get them off of the objective, and they actually do so right away. And so that is it, as we see the Scorch here not being able to get right back to the objective.
How you like that? Everybody forgets now and again that Vi also has the mollies. You know, when we see the mollies come out, oh, we're thinking Scorch. No, Vi also has that control, being able to lay down the molly and, of course, the poison. So, again, a lot of controllability coming out from that Vi pick here on rooftops, but only a 2 elimination difference between these two teams so far. As you can see, once again, it will be Brittany Bad trying to lay down the damage, throwing in the Dima ult, but not being able to connect. They are still standing, and finally we will see that elimination come through as Wolfie will go down.
Wolfie will go down, and immediately Brittany goes ahead and wipe out both members of the team. And so now Miller can just continue to stay on the site, and this is not looking too good for Antimatter Gaming, as Brittany Bad continues to go again with the kill streak. She is currently on a 3-piece run, and this is looking very nasty for Antimatter.
Yeah, and right now Antimatter completely out of lives here. It's all down to Alcoholzy by their lonesome with the glitch pick, trying to make their way around and trying to stay alive, doing their best here. But again, we see Brittany Bad just controlling that ledge. That has been their hotspot all game long.
Oh yeah, it's definitely been a nice little hotspot, as it's easiest to, you know, really take advantage of the situation with the sighting. I mean, at the end of the day, you're looking over both sides of the exact objective, and so it made things very tough for them to stay on site. And as you can see here, I mean, they're laughing away. I mean, Brittany did really well in that particular round. That was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, that they did, and they really didn't stop at all. Like, it was hard to put an end to that momentum. But again, you know, it was really interesting because I was thinking the whole time that, you know, maybe when you're in the 2v2, you want to group up, you want to have the numbers advantage. But what we saw from HTK is that they were able to spread the map pretty successfully and really utilize that mid to close range difference to where one can play site and the other can play for top frag.
Yeah, and Brittany played top frag pretty well. I mean, you just saw on the stat sheet there. I mean, Miller really only just stayed on site and got some damage here and there, but they realistically lost that round to one person. Brittany Bad managed to get all 11 downs on that particular round, and so they played that teamwork to absolute perfection. And so we got to see if they're going to actually be able to continue that here with the objective moving to a different site that is more open. Is going to be a little bit harder to maintain the control.
Yeah, that it is, and honestly, there's no gap now. You know, before at the other site, you know, you had to take the zip across from one side to the other. Now, it's all fair. You know, it's all on one platform, but you can see already Wolfie being able to take that spot away from Brittany Bad, and now it looks as though, once again, we will see Antimatter starting to play a little bit more objective than simply going out for eliminations.
Yeah, and honestly, they really have no choice. Like I alluded to earlier, this objective in general is just a lot more open. It's not too much that you can do here to really hold the site. as far as lanes, and so they won't be able to go and complete this in the same way that they did the first round. It's going to take a lot more teamwork and a lot more fragging from both members of the team as opposed to just one in order for them to come out on top with this victory here.
Yeah, now we're just seeing trade after trade after trade until finally the respawn does come through for the Scorch here in Miss Milleray, and they're finally being able to take back the site, although they are still down 2 lives here.
Yes, and actually a pretty fantastic point to point out here as far as Milleray goes. She actually normally goes with the D40, and so I'm a little surprised myself to see her go with the LMP. Obviously, a lot of people know that the LMP is by far the best gun in the game, and so it's very interesting to see that she's actually going with the D40 because she said time and time again that even though she, and that's just very unfortunate, by the way, but time and time again she says, hey, I know the LMP is way better than D40, but I just feel a lot more comfortable with that, and so I'm very surprised to see that she's whipping out the LMP here today.
You know, I also feel the same way about the Hydra, honestly. I think the Hydra is one of the best weapons in the game as well, and now you can see the util dump coming from the side of Antimatter as they're able to pick up not 1, but 2, and they look to try and take out Miss Milleray there towards the side as they are still managing to hold this site, and things are even here, 3-3, until finally Miss Milleray will go down, and Antimatter will regain control of the site.
Regain control of the site with Wolfie getting that down there. It was pretty clutch, and so Brittany Bad was in a very tough situation there, trying to go against that 1v2, not able to do so, and so as of right now, Antimatter Gaming should be up 3-1, but unfortunately, I don't know what happened to Alcoholzy there, but she managed to slip off of the map and lose that life, and so now things are a lot closer than they probably could be, but at the end of the day, it's still a pretty close match, and we'll see what happens here.
Well, you know, that's Alcoholzy for you. You know, you got to watch your step. You know,
yes.
you keep in mind the name of this map is Rooftops. I'm telling you, you could fall off pretty easily. We've even seen in the main event, you know, unfortunately, some players manage to find their way off the map a time or two.
Yes.
So again, you got to pay attention. All's fair here, and you could already tell it is Miss Milleray trying to turn things back around in their favor as they will find themselves in a 2v1, and that will do it. It will be Antimatter to finally get one on the board.
Yep, and that was pretty impressive. As I mentioned before, that particular objective was just going to be a little bit different for HTK to really play. They wouldn't be able to have one person on site specifically as well, you know, go ahead and just play the game out. And so now you see things are going to be a lot more dicey and a lot more spicy here as we get to the next round.
Yeah, not only that, speaking of the next round, let's get ready to head into a listen-in with Antimatter Gaming to see how they are going to go into the next round.
I'm going to play slow again. I'm going to play slow. Actually, fuck it. I've got util.
I'm watching behind you. Scorch is behind you.
Yep.
No armor, they're both behind you. Watch out.
Yep.
I'm gonna flash them out. No flash, no flash. I'm still watching behind you.
They're pushed up.
I'm gonna hack them.
Okay. They're in my Vi on behind me. They're both up here. We're just chilling. We're just chilling.
Yeah, we're vibing. This fucking elevator music.
She pushed up on me.
I got one.
Got her.
We're good. We're good. We're good. Good shit.
Despawn jump, dude. She's coming behind you. She's coming behind you. She's coming behind you. I spawned with you, bro.
I got
Huge.
her.
Nice. You're good. You're good. You're good. You're good.
Go up top.
Yep. By
We're
trapping
good,
her
we're
out.
good, we're good. Yeah, we're good.
I don't know where this Dima is, though. You gotta watch my back.
I'm watching your back.
I got revealed. I'm backing up. Because that's a... No, never mind, never mind.
Yeah, we're vibing. We're vibing.
They're both... One's on far left, one's in this right corner.
Yep, one's still on point. That's the
Yeah,
Scorch.
the Scorch is in this corner. Like... He zipped, he zipped, he zipped, he zipped, he zipped.
Yeah, you can really notice a different tone now that each side has one win apiece. They are getting a lot more methodical with their movements here. A lot slower pace, but a lot more calculated.
Yeah, and that's going to really change things up here because right now Antimatter Gaming has a pretty significant advantage on HTK Sports in this Esports in this particular situation here. And so we see Brittany Bad trying to do her best to get a flank and take out both members of the team. And when she successfully does so, and so now they actually have a, oh, and no, never mind. Alcoholzy immediately spawns and gets the flank kill on Brittany Bad.
Yeah, and that's another thing you really need to keep in mind here is that not only are you going to be playing for this site, but you also have to take the respawns into consideration as well. Like we see a lot on Sabotage, you know, that timer can definitely be played into your favor if you are willing to take the extra minute to really try and calculate your respawn time, and you are able to come in with a surprise flank like we have seen already from Miss Milleray.
Yeah, and that is very much so. And so now we see here Wolfie trying to do her best here to keep them off of the objective by continuing to scare them with the Vibe Pods, and then she's going to actually go ahead and challenge Milleray here, immediately eliminates her. And so now we have Brittany Bad being on the site by herself as she tries to take this 1v2 versus Wolfie and Alcoholzy.
Yeah, and again, this is going to be a tough retake simply because the deficit is so substantial. 8 lives between these two teams. And right now, really on the side of HTK, they cannot afford to give up not one single one if they want to try and make this comeback.
Yeah, this is going to be very, very important. They have to be very methodical, very patient, and try to pick their fights very wisely as Alcoholzy immediately takes out Milleray, and so that's going to be very tough for Brittany Bad, and so now she's going to be eliminated, obviously, and so now we have Antimatter Gaming going up 2 rounds to 1 after that spectacular round, to be honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, once you get down to the numbers, they can take those trades. They can afford to take the trade. So as long as they're able to get at least that one elimination, then it's a win. It doesn't matter if they lose Alcoholzy or Wolfie in the process. They are still able to literally just chip away at the numbers, and you can see that they literally just did that the entire time. They were not afraid to go in and get the trade, and even when you look at the stats will tell the tale. They're not even really matching the amount of damage. It is slightly higher on the side of Brittany Bad and the rest of HTK and Miss Milleray. But yet, when it comes down to the overall victories and eliminations, they're going in the way of Antimatter.
That is correct. And so that's going to make things very, very interesting here because now the pressure is on HTK in this position, in this situation, because they started off very hot. And so now they're starting to lose momentum as they have found themselves in a 2-1 deficit as they try to come back here.
Yeah, but now you can see Miss Milleray and Brittany Bad are grouping pretty well on the objective, but already that respawn coming underway from the side of Alcoholzy. And we talked about that earlier, being able to play the respawn to your advantage.
Yes, and right now, Alcoholzy immediately spawning in and taking out Brittany Bad. It's going to put Milleray into a tough situation here as she tries to take out, and she actually manages to get the down there on Alcoholzy, get the elimination, and so now managed to keep them off of the objective and allow Brittany Bad to come back towards the objective in time.
Yeah, and I just got to point out as well, we already know how well Miss Milleray can play as the Scorch pick because they literally have the Rogue Mastery skin for Scorch, which again, they're just tells you that they're playing this character a lot.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, and Scorch is a very popular character in general, especially now with the way how she is in this specific meta of Rogue Company. I mean, she has the gold bounce back, and she also has a lot of other very useful perks, as well as just the kit in general. I mean, the ult, the Fire and Ace is all very important. And so now we're going to always see these particular people get played all the time.
Yeah, well, now you can see once again it is a 2-deficit lead in the favor of Antimatter. As you can see, HTK are now making a push towards the site. They will reclaim it, and Miss Milleray will be able to get the knock on Wolfie and begin to turn things around as we are tied yet again at 6 apiece.
Yep, that is correct. And Wolfie immediately gets that trade on Brittany Bad there as she spawns in and gets that flank. And by the way, I just want to point out that I mentioned earlier that Milleray has always pretty much said that she's more comfortable with the D40, and she was playing with the LMP at first, but that was when she wasn't really getting any downs and was just playing the objective. But now she's actually opted to switch to the D40 and get more into her comfort pick there. And so now she's really focused on assisting Brittany with the downs and the frags as they try to go for the objective.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. As a very experienced Chalk player, I got to tell you, I do love the D40. I think the D40 does a little bit better at range than, say, something like the LMP, but that's just my opinion.
Oh, I mean, hey, at the end of the day, I would say that I can't really think of anything that really challenges the LMP in any situation at this point in time. And so that's the reason why you're going to see it used more often than not. Even when the character has the option to choose between an AR and an SMG, you're going to be seeing an LMPX because at the end of the day, that's just the way how things are currently in this meta of Rogue. As we can see here, Wolfie is in a tough situation or manages to get the down on Milleray actually because Alcoholzy backs her up. And Brittany Bad here is in a 1v2 and they end up losing that particular round. And so now, as you can see here, with the vibing, with the dancing, dancing and the celebration, we have Antimatter Gaming getting that particular map. And so that was a very, very successful matchup just in general because I didn't really think that was going to happen.
You know, they did a fantastic job. And again, you know, we like to give Wolfie a hard time just because she's one of us. She's a caster that's on the desk. So, you know, we like to have our expectations high for our fellow casters, but they did not fail to deliver. Once again, Wolfie and Alcoholzy, even though they kind of slipped up there in the first round of that last matchup, they managed to turn things around ASAP, make some very critical corrections, and then came back for the dub.
That is correct. And so that was a very, very fantastic way for them to really adapt to the situation after that particular first round being as tough as it was, especially with the fact that they basically got 1v2'd. I mean, it was all Brittany bad. Miller just played the objective the entire time and did not get a single down in that round, and they still managed to lose. And so now with them being able to come back and win in such a convincing fashion, it has to be a huge momentum boost for Antimatter Gaming.
That it does. And let's take a moment here to go back to see some of the plays that stuck out to us. Again, we were able to see both Wolfie and Alcoholzy really step things up, even though they did not have the greatest start. And here you can see Alcoholzy, again, playing wide to the right, but being able to get the peak on the perch and really come in with those sudden eliminations.
Yeah, and managed to do it without padded steps as well, so you can see the crouch walking there. And it was just a very, very convincing way for them to ultimately win that because everything was looking very tough for a lot of the rounds. There was a lot of trading going back and forth, and that's the chaotic nonsense that you will see sometimes in the strikeout matches at the end of the day because you will see one person win one matchup and then the other win another matchup, and so things can really switch and ultimately change very quickly.
Absolutely. And again, you know, after watching the replays, to be completely honest with you, I was questioning the glitch pick coming from Alcoholzy. But once we went through the replays and I saw them on the site calling in the hack, it really made a retake nearly impossible, especially when you have someone like Dima, especially when you have someone like the Scorch. They can't activate their abilities and they can't use their util, so that makes a retake nearly impossible.
Yep, and like I said before, very good, great picks, or perks, I should say, with his particular kit. And so that's why you're going to always usually see a glitch either being banned or picked, especially in any mode universally. But, I mean, it's going to work out just in general because at the end of the day, that gold bounce back is really, really, really helpful. And it also helps that he has access to LMPX.
Yeah, and again, honestly, what I also really liked is, you know, when we were watching HTK, they really liked to group up and they like to pull a lot of aggro. You know, they like to get in your face and go straight for the gun game, where it seemed as though on the side of Antimatter, they played a little bit slower pace and they were relying more on the long-range shots, trying to play accuracy over, you know, just quantity of just bullet spray. So I really think that also played out into their favor as well, as they were able to really solidify some eliminations without risking their own lives in the process.
Yep, and that is correct. And so now we're going to see here, we're going to move on to our second map, which is going to be Depot, a very popular skirmish type map for sure, usually used for a lot of 1v1s in the Road Company community, but just in general, it's a very popular, very concise, very tight map pause. And so we're going to have a lot of things that's going to be happening in these particular gunfights one by one with this particular map.
Okay, so you're telling me if there's beef in Roco, you take it to the Depot?
Oh, yes, of course. I mean, that happens all of the time. I mean, a lot of the times people just say, hey, run my ones. And so a lot of the times this is the map that's going to get picked as a result because of just how the design of it is and how compact it is. And so we're going to be seeing a lot of interesting matchups here as far as gunfights.
Yeah, and not only that, but I think we're going to see a lot of interesting util as well, because I think this is a map that may favor those Dima and Scorch picks a little more because there's a lot of cover and there's a lot of obstacles in the way that people like to hide behind. So maybe you can use that extra abilities with the util being either the Dima ult or even, you know, the mollies coming from Scorch to really take people out of cover, you know, so that way they can't rely on those obstacles that are laid literally all throughout the depot.
Yeah, and that's one of the very popular things as a result. And so now we're going to probably see, you know, various picks here. I mean, it looks like the Sigrid and Dahlia band is going to be the very popular choice here. We're going to continue to have that. It looks like there's going to be no changes there, and HTK is going to go with the Vi pick. And so now we actually see a Ronin pick with Antimatter Gaming, which I was not exactly anticipating, but again, it's another character with the gold bounce back, and so we're going to have that again as always. And then we have the glitch being played with the Vi, and then the Scorch is going to be on the same side of the Ronin.
I hope I'm seeing this correctly, because this is an absolutely cheeky pick play coming from HTK. They literally just took Antimatter's comp.
That is correct, and that is exactly what just happened. And so we're going to see how exactly they managed to realistically adapt to that pick. I mean, at the end of the day, we have 3 characters here with that gold bounce back. And so now the interesting thing to really take into account here is that we have the Scorch being on the side of the same side of a Ronin. And so we can have a lot of frag nades that can take him out, as well as the Ronin knife, as well as the fire nades. And then ultimately we have a Vi whose nades are not going to really be able to do anything against one particular character, but the other character they can really do some damage with.
And again, but this is still going to be the same problem that HTK had on rooftops, is the retake. Because again, you got the Vi laying down the toxic trap, being able to get a control of the site, and then Glitch denying all that util, the Ronin dagger, the mollies, and everything else. But let's see if it works out for HTK Esports, and let's see if they can answer back against Antimatter as we get this next game underway.
Yep, and right off rip, we see here with the Glitch immediately taking out that util and the ult ability, as we had mentioned prior to the start of the match. And so now we see here it's going to be a tie game as Wolfie goes ahead and takes out Miller Ray immediately, who tries to get that objective.
Yeah, and like you said, absolutely burning them up with that LMP SMG. It is doing tons of damage, and right now I think we're already seeing that Wolfie is starting to frag out a little bit more than what she did on rooftops.
Oh yeah, and that is what we like to call being Ronin gapped, as Ronin is a very, very popular character nowadays and very, very powerful. And so we're going to see how exactly Wolfie manages to utilize that Ronin knife and those frag nades to her advantage on this particular map, especially whenever HTK decides to try to go for a retake or just try to really maneuver themselves so that way they're not really out in the open as often.
Yeah, and this spot just looks difficult in general because it's elevated. You know, you constantly are going to be hiding behind that ledge, and at the same time, you get a slight upper hand advantage when you're on top of the platform. So it has its cheeky moments, but as you can see already, the retake is coming through from Antimatter, but there and on the side is Brittany Bad trying to deny the retake coming from Antimatter.
Yeah, and this is actually pretty chaotic because we're just going back and forth between the kills so far. I mean, it's only 8-7 as we see here. Alcoholzy going for that throw of the nade there, thinking that there was someone around the wall, but unfortunately not exactly there. Miller Ray takes Alcoholzy out immediately, and so they're going to lose that life there. And so now they have to try to make up for those 2 lives that they are now down.
Yeah, that they do. And the best way to do it right now is just simply by trying to get this retake. There goes the Ronin dagger, but it's not going to be able to connect. Again, we already talked about how useful Ronin could be, but like we talked about also in the pre-show is how many obstacles are in the way here on Depot. So it's really hard to try and land all that util when there's so much coverage for your opponents.
Yes, and that's actually a very fair point. As we see here, the Ronin is going to be a very nice pick as far as using that smoke grenade as well to utilize it for extra cover, as well as allowing them to be able to move from one spot to the other without really getting picked off by the opposing team.
Yep, and now already the retake literally took no time at all for HTK to get the spot back, but you can see Alcoholzy trying once again to get the site back in their favor. As you can see, it is now coming down to only a 2-life deficit between these 2 teams.
Yep, and it's just continuing to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth with these very random and sporadic spawns as we see Miller Ray here getting Ronin down after the nice flash. That was a very nice wall bang of the flash nade there, taking out Wolfie, and so now that's going to put this situation here with Brittany Bad going with that Vi Hydra, getting as much damage as possible. She's going to get that immediate elimination there on Alcoholzy, and they're going to clear them out as Wolfie is taken out as well by Miller Ray.
And honestly, now that we're looking at it again, I don't blame them for taking this comp. This is definitely the way to go when we're talking about a 2v2 strikeout here on Depot. As you can see now, it is all down to the last Ronin on the side of Antimatter, as HTK have managed to literally run away with this round 1.
And that's exactly what happened last map. And so we're going to go ahead and take this 1 round at a time for sure. But it's definitely a nice confidence booster for HTK if they do manage to finish this round. Now, I mean, at the end of the day, we don't know. And there it is. Okay, so now the round is actually over. And so HTK managed to get that round pretty clean, just like the first map. But we're going to see if they're able to keep that momentum, because as we just seen on the previous map, you never know what's going to happen until it happens.
Now, Sonic, I want to pick your analytical brain for a second, because in all fairness, I think you are more well-versed than I when it comes to Rogue Company. So I got to ask you, how come you think we haven't seen any of the trophy systems be deployed yet?
Trophy systems? What do you mean by trophy systems? I mean, in this particular case, we don't have any characters that's going to have trophy systems,
right,
if that's what you mean. But are you just saying, why aren't there any characters just being used with trophies?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Oh, I mean, well, I don't really think anyone's going to use Anvil. no one's really going for the trench, like you mentioned earlier. I just think that's kind of like a comfort thing. So the only other character that I could think of would be Mac and Dahlia, but Dahlia's been consistently banned every single time, and I just don't think any of these young ladies here are really interested in playing Mac, although if there was no Dahlia bans, I think you would have probably seen a Mac Dahlia by now, but I think that's the main reason why Dahlia is being banned consistently, and so no one's really opting to go with any of those characters with trophies, is my opinion.
Yep, fair enough. But now we're getting ready to head right on into the action here. As you can see, it will be Antimatter to strike first as they get a 1 elimination lead, but they are being contended for the site here. And there you have it, an elimination going down on the side of Antimatter, but quickly making it up is Brittany Bad, who is able to retake the site in favor of HTK.
Yep, and there's Miller Ray cleaning up that mess there with Alcoholic with the D40, taking her out before she even gets a chance to contest Brittany Bad as she went for the site to go ahead and clear that out. And so now we're going to see here as Antimatter Gaming loses that next life with the timer there on the strikeout. And so they have to take their time really distinguishing where exactly everyone is before they go for that retake.
Yeah, and keep in mind, you know, we were talking about the mastery skins. You can see here that on the Vi pick for Brittany Bad, they have the level 9 mastery skin for Vi. So again, this is not a rogue that Brittany Bad is unfamiliar with.
Oh, yeah, and this is actually reminding me of Looney Tooney as well, because she's going with the Vi Hydra, or Hydra Vi as I like to call it. And so, you know, being able to implement that extra damage from the ticks that you get from the fire nades as well as from the Vi pods. And so ultimately that Hydra can be a real beefy rifle to use in this particular situation, you know, especially when it comes to cleanups at the end of the day.
Yeah, but you also got to keep in mind is that with all the extra weaponry that is laid around on the map, they managed to pick up the LMP as well. So not only do they have the Hydra, but they're also toting the LMP, which makes them a danger not just from the distance, but at the close range as well.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And you've seen that immediately with Brittany Bad winning that 1v1 there, and she's managing to get another kill on Alcoholic here. And so right now, Brittany Bad is definitely doing a lot of cleanup, getting a lot of nice kill streaks, and things are looking very dicey for Antimatter Gaming as a result. And so now they have to focus, and excuse me, Alcoholic immediately gets taken out while trying to creep up to the site. And so now Wolfie is all alone yet again with the Ronin in the spawn.
Yeah, and you know me, I don't like to call things a little bit too early. Who am I kidding? Yes, I do. I think this one is pretty one-sided, and I think it will, in fact, be HTK to answer back against Antimatter as they will be going up 2-0 here on Depot.
Oh, yeah, and right now things are looking very dicey for Antimatter. Very, very scary right now. And so we're going to be very soon getting into a listen-in with HTK.
So I feel like
I just don't want to
blue
get.
Tenacity like doesn't even save me from anything. Ryan's gonna be throwing like. All right, I'm going right. Ronin's on my side, I think, because I got naded.
Okay, I don't know where my.
Like, I could bait a little second here. Okay. Ah! I didn't bait very well. I kind of got stuck.
I got one of them. She's
Nice.
mid. She's mid for now.
She's lowish.
Nice.
Okay. Can you get point back right
Yeah.
now?
I'm getting it.
I'm ratting here. Got her. Other one's like over here. She's coming around to the right. They're both over there now.
I'm hacking them.
She's one shot if you can. Nice.
Got her.
Other one's stuck over here.
Do you see her?
I'm trying to see if like Scorch is coming around.
I hear footsteps, but. Oh, she's in my building.
In your building? Okay. Wait, one pushed up. Fuck. Woo.
No! I ran out of bullets by the time she got to me.
That's okay. Ah! Okay, I barely got out of that one.
Well, alrighty, and again, you know what? It's so funny that we really get to hear the difference between teams' comms because, you know, when we were listening to Wolfie and Alcoholics, they had a little bit more veracity in their comms. They were a lot louder, and, you know, Wolfie being a desk-caster, she is especially loud. But when we're listening into HTK Esports, they were a lot more cool, calm, and collected, and they actually were very quiet for the most part.
Yeah, they seem to be very much locked in. I mean, at the end of the day, I guess you got to just assume that they're very focused after what just happened or transpired on the previous map. And so very interesting to see and listen to as well. I will agree with that. And so I think it's paying off very well for them because they've been winning each of these rounds pretty convincingly every single time. And so as a result, we're going to pretty much get to the conclusion here that HTK is going to go ahead and win this map.
Yeah, you see, it's definitely looking that way. When you're looking at a 10-0 deficit, and I mean, there's really not much else to say. It's all but over but the crying at this point. But we could see some miraculous comebacks possibly coming through from Antimatter. No, we won't. It's over. There you have it. HTK coming out with a dominating victory there on Depot.
Yes, and they dominated very well as they managed to go ahead and win every single round very convincingly, as I mentioned before. And so that particular map, Depot, either they're just really good at it or Antimatter just has to have that particular weakness on that map. And so it's going to be interesting to see how exactly they decide to bounce back on the third map in general.
I mean, to be completely honest, I think HTK Esports kind of taking the comp originally that was going on the side of Antimatter kind of threw them through a loop. I don't think they were expecting it, and even if they were, I don't think they were really ready to adapt to having to switch to different characters and really being able to adjust going into Depot. So now that we're going into match number 3, it's going to be interesting to see how they will start things off with their picks and bans.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point because that glitch just seems to be a pretty crucial factor to that particular matchup in general, as well as Brittany Bad being on Vi specifically. Remember, she was not Vi on the original map. Prior to that, it was Dima instead. And so perhaps they may, on the side of HTK, focus on having Brittany Bad on a Vi character or any one of those other characters that can really get damaged with ticks and then also be able to get the shots off with the Hydra from the side as well.
And then all the while, you got Miss Milleray, who was literally just flanking the likes of which we have never seen. Again, time and time again, we even heard it on the comms. Oh, she's one hit. Come around the corner and finish that off. And boom, every single time, Miss Milleray was there.
Yep, that is correct. And so you got to always watch out for those glitch flanks. I mean, especially when he has padded. In that particular case, I don't really think that they went with padded, but nonetheless, a very dangerous road to deal with at all times, especially with that gold bounce back and the almighty LMPX. And so they managed to do a lot of damage in very, very convincing fashion and in a very inconspicuous manner.
Yep, that they did. And honestly, I can't wait to get into the next matchup, of course, because this is the first match that we got to cast in the ladies tournament, and it's already going to a Game 3.
Yeah, and that's actually very exciting because I got to say, this is not something that I necessarily anticipated with this particular matchup, but it's very great for the viewers and, you know, us as well, because at the end of the day, from what I've heard, all of the matches that were not broadcast, they pretty much were just wipes. Everything was just going 3-0, 3-0, 3-0. So now it's very, very interesting that they are going back and forth like this. It's creating a lot of controversy.
Oh, absolutely. And you got to keep in mind, though, both of these teams so far don't have a single win on the board. So there's a lot on the line for both of these teams. Neither one of them want to finish this day out without getting a win. So they're going to have to step up big so that way they can secure a win and go home with some confidence as we get ready to head into our next map, and we will be going to District.
Oh, yeah. District is a very interesting map. Now, this one I have to say, it's going to be very, very interesting to see what type of composition they decide to go with here. More than likely, we're going to probably still have that Dahlia and the Secret Band. It seems like that's just going to be consistent. Neither team wants to deal with either one of those rogues, and so I'm interested to see if they decide to go and take Alcoholzy off of Glitch again, or if they just decide to let them keep it. If Brittany Bad goes with Vi, or maybe she goes with another character in particular. It does seem to me that she actually prefers to just go with an AR character or just someone with ARs in general, as opposed to using the LMPX, despite how powerful it is.
Yeah, and again, like you were talking about, what did you call it? The Vi Hydra?
Yeah, Hydra Vi, Vi Hydra, yep.
Yeah, that seems to be the go-to combo so far for these matchups, and it's been paying off huge. Again, being able to have that overabundance of control with the Vi traps, all the while being able to lay down all those insane headshots, the dings with the Hydra. Again, just going absolutely nuttery-buttery on the eliminations, all the while you're taking control of the site.
Nuttery buttery, I like that.
Thank you.
Yes, it's very interesting for sure, just to see how exactly that goes. And so I'm honestly just very curious to see what exactly they decide to go with as far as the composition on this particular map, especially with it being the third map. Maybe we see some switch ups here and see some rogues that we haven't even seen on the map at all yet. You know, maybe either team doesn't really go with someone with gold bounce back, even though I don't really anticipate that happening. But I think what you will not see is Wolfie on Ronin again. I think that was something that they kind of went with, assuming that it was going to work out pretty well with the gold bounce back on both characters, but it didn't, and so we're going to probably see a switch up there.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if we even see some more smokes coming out, like maybe a fixer. Can you imagine how awesome having a fixer would be in this 2v2 strikeout when you're trying to go for a retake, you can't even get by, but you throw the smoke there on the point, and even if they stick around, you'll be able to use the thermal to really see where they're at, and if they don't stick around, then you just clear them off the site.
Yeah, I mean, that could be something that could be played, but I guess that's more so of a preference pick in this particular situation here. Not necessarily because of Fixer being a weak rogue, but because of it being, you know, wingman strikeout 2v2. It's more so, are those particular people good enough or comfortable enough with, you know, DMRs or a sniper to really hone in on that Fixer pick? Because although his kit is good and his loadout is good and his ability is good, are they going to really be able to focus on that DMR or, you know, obviously snipe? But in a situation like this, you really wouldn't want to snipe in the first place.
And you know what else I'm thinking is because that we're in such close quarters and because there's a lot of gun game to be had, I would honestly not really be surprised, but I would like to see an LMG. And there goes the Vi pick and the Dahlia, well, the Vi ban and the Dahlia ban. But I would like to see an LMG. Keep in mind, Juke is a very mobile character who can break out an LMG. So you can literally just spray and pray for days and not run out of ammunition, all the while being able to move throughout the map pretty easily.
Yeah, that's very, very valid point. And I have to say, even though we have not seen Juke get banned or played yet, so I want to say that more than likely Juke has just been a GA character amongst the two teams. Maybe they just decided not to even use Juke whatsoever, because it's very surprising to see that they have not played or banned that character in particular. And so now you see the Vi ban getting out of here immediately, and the interesting thing is that HTK was the ones that ended up doing it themselves. And so they got rid of the Vi. They don't want to deal with that anymore. Antimatter is going to actually go with Phantom, which has not been picked. And I wouldn't really anticipate Phantom being picked in the 2v2s. But they're going to go ahead and go with that. And so that's going to be an interesting situation there as we see HTK going with Scorch and Ronin ultimately. And then Antimatter actually getting that glitch back.
Yeah, and honestly, the thing with the Phantom is kind of what I was thinking with the Fixer, but they're going about it a different way with the Phantom pick, and that's still going to work out perfectly fine because, again, you have the reveal with the smoke coming from Phantom. You have that extra util, and then not only that, but I'm pretty sure she comes with the recon darts as well, being able to throw them on the wall and get that extra intel. And honestly, I don't think we've seen too many or any at all intel picks coming from this 2v2.
No, that hasn't happened at all yet, actually. And so the only intel that was there prior to this was Dima with his EMP nades, if you want to count that, and just his nades in general. But other than that, yeah, you're correct. There has not been any intel characters, which usually you don't really necessarily need in the 2v2 unless you go with maybe like a Dallas or something like that. But that hasn't been happening yet. And so now we have this Phantom pick, which can be very annoying with the sticky sensors as well as to reveal smoke. And they also have the glitch, who would be, you know, the clear-cut counter to that type of intel, you know, weaponry that's on the map itself consistently.
Now that we're going into, again, the 2v2 strikeout, mostly close quarters, do you bring out the tier with the Phantom in this scenario?
I would have to say I can't imagine them using that. I could be wrong. I'm going to say that they went Phantom to just try to utilize that passive with an AR. You might end up seeing Hydra Phantom, to be honest with you. Maybe they want to do that to annoy Brittany Bad, because I'm sure so far Brittany Bad has been annoying them with the Hydra Vi and Hydra Dima. And so that is my anticipation there. If someone on Antimatter decided to go and snipe, I would genuinely be flabbergasted.
Yeah, that would honestly be interesting. But still, you know, anything can happen. Right now, so far, what I'm liking from the side of HTK is that they're going straight for the util dump, going for the mollies coming from Scorch, and, of course, the Ronin dagger with Ronin. But, and again, with that being said, you know, it's interesting that they decided to go with a more intel-based character when Ronin literally is immune to intel.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Like I said, the Phantom pick surprises me the most. Not really sure what the thought process there is on their side. I mean, it could ultimately prove to be what gives them the advantage in the end, but I'm not entirely sure. I'm thinking it's more so just the passive itself, but I just think that they could have potentially went with someone else to really counteract that or really assist them in this particular juncture. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see for sure.
Yeah, and again, now that we're getting ready to head into this map number 3, this is going to be the deciding factor here. You know, we've already had to see these two teams go at it. And again, I'll be honest, you know, the first match seemed a little closer. It did end in a 3-1. But that 3-0 sweep coming from HTK on Depot, that was pretty astounding to say the least. I think that's going to give them a huge momentum boost heading into this next one.
Going to get a huge momentum boost and the confidence to really feel like that they can really ultimately send this home and get this dub. But we're just going to have to wait and see if Antimatter is able to counteract that and bounce back and ultimately win. I mean, I'm genuinely just really concerned / I guess looking forward to how exactly the Phantom pick plays out because, again, I was not anticipating that whatsoever.
Me neither. I was honestly anticipating the Sigrid pick because the whole time they were banning Dahlia and
Yep.
Sigrid. As soon as they don't ban Sigrid,
Yep.
I'm thinking, oh, we're going to jump on that character ASAP and try and bring them in because, again, having that shield on the retake or just having that shield in general when you're trying to take the objective is monumental for any team that's going to try and take the dub and strike out.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I mean, shields up is one of the things that I hate hearing the most in the game is shields up and it's death approaches. And so if I don't have to hear that, then that's definitely a dream come true for me. And so as you mentioned, very, very surprising that you don't see the Sigrid pick here in this particular situation. We have the consistent Dahlia ban every single time. And so when they finally have a chance to go ahead and pick that Sigrid, it's not picked up. And so now I'm wondering why exactly were they using that ban on that character in the first place? I mean, I would imagine maybe they knew that one team was more, favorsome of the Sigrid pick over the other, but apparently that's not the case because neither team went with Sigrid.
Yeah, and another thing, just to make another point here, we're talking about picks, the Scorch pick. I get it. I understand it. In a 2v2 setting, it makes a whole lot of sense. But so far in this matchup, the Scorch pick has gone 0-2.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a pretty fair point. And I think the other thing here is that Brittany Bad has been the one that's been fragging for HTK. And so she hasn't been the one on Scorch specifically. Antimatter has been kind of like a back and forth. But HTK, Miller Ray, when she had Scorch, she was obviously just playing the objective. And so far it seems like the main priority with Scorch was basically, hey, I'm going to use Scorch to take a site or hold a site because I can't get taken off by these mollies. And so I'm going to focus on that. Now you see Vi going back and obviously changing things immediately by being banned. And so now we're just going to have to get back and to see what exactly happens here because that's going to change things up very quickly because at the end of the day, Scorch is very powerful.
Yeah, and then Scorch is, insanely powerful, but at the same time, we're on a completely different map. I feel like going into this next one is that it's going to be insanely wide, so there's going to be a lot more ground to cover. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Hydra come back out. But if I'm hearing correctly, I assume that we're going to be taking a short break just momentarily, so that way we can get this match to you ready and underway as fast as we can. So do not go anywhere. We will be right back with the RCCS for the ladies tournament here in just a few minutes. Well, hello, Rogues, and welcome back. Once again, I am your hostess, Ethan, the captain at Soka, and we are back from that technical difficulty. Alongside me is Sonic. And Sonic, we are finally getting ready to get this matchup underway once and for all.
Yes, that is correct. And left things at quite the cliffhanger there. I'm curious to see if this is going to affect any of the players in this particular case as they had to, wait for that issue to be resolved there. And so now, as we see right away, it looks like Miller Ray did not have to waste any time getting back to the way that she was performing, pulling out the D40 again and taking out Wolfie. And Wolfie actually going with that Ronin pick, which is very surprising. And then Alcoholzy on the Chalk. And so they went with a very interesting lineup here.
That they did, and you can see we're actually here on Vertigo this time around, one of the more newer maps to come out, but I gotta tell you, I do like it very much, and you can see already that I think both of these teams are liking it a good bit too, as they are already jumping all over these sites, and right now it looks as though HTK Esports are in the lead.
Yes, they are, and as you can see here, Brittany Bad is back on that Hydra Vi, and so it's going to be very dangerous for Antimatter Gaming to really deal with ultimately. Now, they do have the tanky Chalk, and so that's going to be the key matchup there. Alcoholzy versus Brittany Bad. Will she be able to overtake site and be able to take control and win her 1v1s against Brittany Bad on a consistent basis to the point where that Hydra is eventually nullified?
Well, let's see how it goes already. You can see Chalk trying to go for the flank, but they get outgunned. And now here comes the rebuttal from Wolfie as they are able to get that one knocked, but they could not get the res, and now the site will go back into control of Antimatter.
Yep, and so now what they have to do here is really focus on getting into position, being able to have a nice wall of defense set up like the Wall of China, and really being able to utilize their angle so that way it makes it very much more difficult for Antimatter Gaming to ultimately overtake the site. And as you can see here, we get a trade, and then we get a 1v1 with Miller Ray taking out Alcoholzy, and so now that team wipe is there, but we have Aron and Wolfie spawning right back, right behind her immediately, and so now things are just going to continue to be very close.
That they are, and keep in mind, it's still only just a 1 life deficit, and with the time continuing to tick away, it's only a matter of time before they knock off another one. But hold the phone, here we go. It will be Alcoholzy to get yet another elimination, but the flank coming from Mrs. Miller Ray will also get the trade on Ronan. So now we are all tied at 4 apiece.
It's going to keep things tied up for sure, and it's going to make things very interesting here. As we can see, Brittany Bad tried to do her best to get to the site and try to not allow that timer to go off, but now she ends up losing the life as well as the life from the timer, and so that is a very unfortunate position that she's put herself into just now.
Yeah, that it is, and now the tables have kind of turned here as it will be Antimatter who take the lead over HTK Esports. Now, keep in mind, HTK Esports are bringing the comp of Vi and Glitch, which so far is undefeated in this series.
Yeah, it's a pretty nasty lineup for sure, and with the main fact of it being that Brittany Bad has continued to just stay committed to the Hydra, dealing damage every single time as she wins that 1v2 matchup there, being able to take out not only Alcoholzy, but then immediately turning to her left and taking out Wolfie instead. And so now she's managed to clear out the site, get both of them off, and so now they have to reset, and she takes down Wolfie yet again. And so Brittany Bad is just, at this point, just going absolutely berserk.
And they honestly need to, because keep in mind, they were down 3 lives. It was a 3-life deficit, and once again, we find ourselves tied at 1 apiece. But see, the timer continuing to tick away is about to take off yet another life for free, as they will get a lead here, and what very well possibly could be the deciding elimination is now null and void, as Brittany Bad does go down. But here comes the rebuttal again, and all the trades that follow. They need to get this res. They have got to go for the res here. And you can see already it will be going through, but already it will be Brittany Bad on the attack.
Yep, and ultimately that is going to be the dub for Antimatter Gaming on that particular round. Wolfie managing to spawn back just in time to be able to get that trade once Brittany Bad went down and taking out Alcoholzy as well. And so that was a very clutch moment for sure for Wolfie.
Yeah, that it was. And then look how this one goes. She faked the res in order to outplay Brittany Bad. That was actually a really high IQ play coming from Wolfie, being able to go for the good old-fashioned bait and switch.
The bait and switch, and that was actually Miller Ray that she had ultimately traded with, and so I do apologize. And so that is very, very fortunate for them that they've managed to do that. They got themselves a 1-0 advantage, and so now we have the objective here in the middle of the map. This is always a very cheeky position for everyone to be in, because you never really know who is where and what they're doing. And so as you can see, immediately after getting the objective, Alcoholzy is taken out, and so now they really have to just focus on reclaiming that objective and then ultimately finding a way to really protect it themselves from afar, I should say.
Yeah, and they really let that one go, because keep in mind, even though Mrs. Miller Ray did get knocked, they were still able to reclaim the site because they were knocked, but they were still on point.
Right. Yeah, that is very, very true. And so that's another thing that people have to consider whenever playing Strikeout all the time, is that just because someone is down does not mean that they can't take that point back. And so it's very important to always get those eliminations whenever you can.
Yeah, now you can see once again going with the Vi Hydra. It is Brittany Bad laying down the damage, and they will be able to gang up on the Chalk and get the elimination. As you can see, they will take the point back from Antimatter.
Yeah, and that was actually pretty good, because Miller Ray had actually came back from behind of the Chalk, and so really assisted Brittany there, getting that down and getting that elimination, allowing them to really clear out that site. And so now they're going to have to force Antimatter to get that reset and see how exactly they decide to overtake this objective now.
And you can already see the positioning coming out from the side of HTK as they throw down the Vi Poison. And now the knock on Alcoholzy, but Wolfie being able to answer back on Brittany Bad, but not on Mrs. Miller Ray, as they will continue to hold the site, and they will continue to eat away at the life deficit.
And Miller Ray is actually playing the objective very smartly. She just pops up whenever needed and then goes back into position every single time. And so she's doing a very good job being a rat, just like the Master Splitter from New York, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, as she goes ahead and gets another down on the Alcoholzy as she tries to sprint towards that objective. And so that's not going to work out, and just going to put Wolfie into a 1v2 situation. She's going to be taken out immediately by Brittany Bad. And so now things are looking more and more dicey for Antimatter Gaming as a result.
Yeah, they are able to at least pick out Brittany Bad there behind the crates as they look to make the push and try and take a 2v1 advantage. Doesn't look so good so far. As you can see, that Ronin Dagger does miss. And now the Vi traps will go out, and they should be able to secure this spot in this position. But it looks as though Mrs. Miller Ray is not having a lot of luck here.
No, Mrs. Miller Ray is actually managing to stay alive a lot longer than probably what Antimatter will want in this particular situation, as Miller Ray has kind of been in the same area every single time, but because she's keep moving around in that area and just kind of ratting into different positions, she's being a very, very, very sneaky player to really kill in this particular situation.
Yeah, and again, going into this this round here, it is definitely one-sided in the favor of HTK. It's like you said, this is a bit of a cheeky spot. You know, it's very hard to retake.
Yep.
So once you gain that control and you're continuing to really be a presence in the midfield, it makes it to where you can really amount a lot of points very quickly.
Yeah, for sure. And so now we finally see Antimatter Gaming managing to actually take the objective for the first time in quite a while. So they've been losing lives, not only by just losing gunfights, but from the ticks of the actual objective itself. But they managed to do it, even though now they no longer have any lives. So they're going to have to play this very, very carefully if they're going to even come close to making some sort of miraculous comeback here.
Yeah, and here comes Mrs. Miller Ray again, coming through with the hack. So again, that's going to definitely put a little bit of a halt on the presence coming from the side of Antimatter, as finally it does wear off. And it looks as though they are going to go for that retake, but there's Wolfie laying on that damage, and it will be Alcoholzy to get up there and solidify the knock on Brittany Bad.
Yep, and Miller Ray is actually still very close by towards the site. It's going to ultimately end up getting into a 1v1 situation with Alcoholzy here, as immediately Miller Ray takes out Alcoholzy, and she's going to try to go for that self-revive, and it doesn't work out. And so now they end up losing that round, and so HTK goes ahead and get a round themselves, and so we're now tied 1-1.
That we are, and honestly, it's so far so good, because we don't really get to see a 1-1 tie more often than not. You got to keep in mind the last round that we had ended in a 3-0 victory in favor of HTK. So now that we're starting things here with a little back-to-back action, looks like this could end a lot closer than what it started. Yeah,
and you see the way how this round ended was just very interesting. Like I said before, Miller Ray is doing a pretty good job being very methodical, very patient in picking out when to attack, when to fall back, and so it's been working out very well on the side of HTK, and so we're just going to have to see if she's able to keep that up.
Well, here we go. We are already getting things well and underway. As you can see, that the point does get taken back by Antimatter, but here comes the flank again from Mrs. Miller Ray, but they will get outflanked by Wolfie. What a play!
That was actually pretty impressive for sure, and that's something that you would not expect there in that particular situation there. As we see Brittany Bad taking out Alcoholzy with the almighty Hydra again, and Wolfie getting a very nice trade, taking out Brittany Bad with that LMPX. And so now we're going to have to see here if they decide to go after Miller Ray immediately or not. And it looks like they're going to actually play that back.
Now, you see, it's starting to look as though that Antimatter do a little bit better in the close quarter, and HTK just does a little bit better in the open space, the open area, because now, like we're talking about with the Vi Hydra, that has more utilization towards the mid to long range. And, you know, when we're talking about those submachine guns, they do a lot better towards the close range. So when you have these tight-knit corners like this, it seems as though Antimatter may have the advantage.
Yeah, and that's going to most likely be the case. I mean, at the end of the day, both people on Antimatter Gaming are running with the LMPX, and so even though it is a very powerful weapon universally at this point in time, it's still realistically an SMG, and so the original purpose is to be able to engage in combat from those close to mid-range levels. And so we're going to see that type of thing happen a lot more often than not, especially if HTK doesn't necessarily know where they are on the map.
Yeah, and I already got to tell you, Alcoholzy's spot is so cheeky over there, but you can see the flank already coming through from Brittany Bad as they are able to get the read on where Alcoholzy was. but they're not pushing the site just yet. They know that they're at a disadvantage when they're trying to go up against that LMP. And now, like you said earlier, Mrs. Miller-Ray, they like to go with the D40.
Yep, that is correct. And so now we see here Mrs. Miller-Ray taking out Alcoholsy with that flank, and Wolfie not being aware of where she is whatsoever. So that had to have been a miscommunication there as she was just reloading out in the open. So that was very unfortunate. But they have enough lives to really deal with this situation here. So they have a much better margin for error, if you would say, than on the side of HTK.
Yeah, and they also have both of their abilities as well. As you can see, the Chalk ult does get popped, and Alcoholsy trying to make the push here, going towards the side.
Oh my
But it won't
goodness.
be enough. They will get the trade, and now it's a 1v1 between Wolfie and Mrs. Miller-Ray, but the flash was just too good to be denied, and the spot will remain in the clutches of HTK.
And I have to say, that was a pretty impressive trade on the side of Brittany Bad for sure, because once that Chalk ult is popped in that type of situation there, most of the time they're going to think that Chalk is going to win that 1v1. And ultimately, that is not what happened. They ended up getting the tie there, and so that was very nice. It allowed Miller-Ray to go ahead and take the site, as well as get a life of her own as well.
And like the announcer said in the game, only 5 lives left for Antimatter Gaming and only 1 for the side of HTK. So they're going to have to try and take this site if they're going to try and hold out to their last remaining life here. And you can see already Brittany Bad going back up top, gets rid of the Ronin dagger. Now looking around, making sure that they're not going to get flanked from anywhere else, but the time will continue to tick away, and it looks as though their last remaining life will go away.
That is correct, and so they had to make a move. They were in a very unfortunate position there, but now Brittany has to try to do the most miraculous thing ever and just go out going crazy, because this is the very last map, and oh my goodness, and she's on her last life and managing to take them both out one by one. How much longer can she sustain this, Cap?
I honestly don't know, but you got to keep in mind as time continues to go on, they do get to try and recharge their util. So if they can hold out for, a little bit longer, they should have a little bit of extra force to go with here. But they're going to peek the corner. Now going up against Alcoholsy will get the knock, and now trying to get the read on Wolfie as the Vi-Trap does go out, forcing Wolfie to peek, and they will get punished as that round will go to the side of Antimatter Gaming.
Yes, it will, but I have to say that had to have been kind of a spooky moment for Antimatter Gaming for sure, because at the end of the day, it was just one person there that could have easily just pushed her at some point in time, especially since they had more lives, but it seemed like they were just more willing to play more passively, and that was very, very, very close to actually being to their disadvantage and allowing them to lose, but ultimately Wolfie was able to get that down on Brittany Bad, and so well done by her for sure.
Yeah, what's interesting to see is that, for the most part, when we're looking at the stats, Alcoholsy is keeping up with damage, but they're not keeping up with downs. They're able to deliver and really get a lot of the damage down, but they're not able to solidify their eliminations. And I think that's really is kind of throwing a wrench into the process of Antimatter. Even though that they have been successful so far, they really haven't been successful at taking this point in particular.
Yeah, and it's more so that they've been mostly focused on team shots, and then there's a lot of times where the Ronin kind of just pops up behind people because obviously they don't really know where she is most of the time, and so allowing her to really get more of the cheeky and sneaky downs as opposed to really challenging them head on every single time. And so I've been noticing that Alcoholsy's been kind of pushing towards them directly face to face, and so it's allowed for more damage, but not necessarily being able to get that particular down, as you alluded to, as a result.
Yeah, now the gas grenade forcing Wolfie to back off a little here. Literally on the edge of the site, trying to decide whether or not they should go for the full send. And you can see Brittany Bad still lurking there behind the corner as the Vi-Trap does go out. And now the Chalk ult does as well. They are looking to try and gang up on Brittany Bad. But Brittany Bad still is alive and kicking and is still holding onto that site.
Yep, very nice cover again from Miller-Ray. They probably had no idea that she was in that particular corner, but provided very nice cover for Brittany Bad in that particular situation. And so it's going to allow them more time to allow things to tick, 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 tick. And they're going to end up ultimately losing another life if they don't make another move.
And again, we're just seeing the ultimate control coming from the side of Brittany Bad with those Vi-Traps, being able to literally funnel their enemies to one spot, and it's just behind this box.
Yep, and at the end of the day, now we see here, Alcoholsy's actually managed to spot Miller-Ray behind that box, but as you can see, she's going to actually take her time to get up close behind her and see if she could potentially find out where Brittany Bad is as well before making the move.
Well, here you go. They're going to be laying down the damage, but not enough to get the elimination. And unfortunately, Wolfie does go down, and the jig is up. They know that Alcoholzy was going for the flank here, and now here comes the read throughout the corner.
Oh, my.
And what a read it was. It will be Brittany Bad being able to get yet another elimination on Alcoholzy.
Yeah, and that was just absolutely unfortunate, right? I mean, I think at the end of the day, Alcoholzy, once she did identify where Miller was, and then once she seen Brittany Bad, she probably just jumped the gun a little too bit trying to go for that challenge because she didn't allow Wolfie to really get into a good position, and so she died for no reason, and then she ultimately got flanked herself.
Yep, that they did, and now you will see Alcoholzy on the move trying to figure out this Vi position, but they're not going to be able to get the knock, and now they're going to try and go for it again, but they are unsuccessful. Brittany Bad absolutely popped off, getting a double elimination there at the end.
Yeah, Brittany Bad has been looking very, very spectacular so far, for sure, in this series matchup with the Hydra Vi, or just the Hydra just in general, but especially with the Hydra Vi. And so one thing you have to consider is that prior to our long break here, they actually had banned Vi, but it looks like they ultimately decided not to do that. And so right now, it's really, really not going in favor of Antimatter Gaming not banning that Vi. And actually, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, HTK actually banned the Vi. And so now that they left it open, she's just going absolutely berserk as she opens the round immediately, taking out Wolfie yet again.
Yeah, not only that, but I got to point out Brittany Bad currently has 25 downs, probably around 27 or 28 now, with over 3,000 damage. Brittany Bad is going absolutely insane here.
Yeah, and Brittany Bad has absolutely been looking like the MVP the entirety of this series so far, for sure, and has been just going absolutely crazy with that Hydra, and it's been very impressive to witness because at the end of the day, as we've seen for the entirety of this LAN so far, as well as the qualifiers, Rogue Company at this point in time is a really LMPX meta, and so for her to be doing so well with the Hydra in these 2v2s is very impressive to me.
I'm telling you, the Hydra is definitely probably one of the best weapons in the game. I said that before. I will continue to stand by it. The LMP still is without a doubt top tier, but the Hydra, I think, is on the same level.
Oh, the Hydra is a very, very powerful weapon. I think the matter of the fact is just that, you know, as far as fire rate and stuff, you're going to always obviously be able to just go with the LMPX because of that fire rate with it being an SMG. And so usually in combination with that, and then it's range in general, it just seems like you would want to go with that. And so that's the reason why you're going to keep seeing it time and time again for sure. But like I said, the Hydra is definitely a viable weapon. I'm just surprised to see her do so well in this particular situation against two players that are using the LMPX.
Absolutely, and now you can see slowly but surely Antimatter are trying to claw their way back into this one as they are only down now 3 with the retake already underway from HTK as they manage to get up top and they get a spot. And you'll see that they will be blinded, and now Alcoholzy will be able to get that elimination. As you can see the push coming from Mrs. Miller-Ray, and now only to be followed up by Wolfie, and the retake will be denied as the site remains into the possession of Antimatter.
And that was a very, very odd transaction of actions there because you've seen one trade happen, then another trade happen, and then another trade happen. And so things are just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's been very, very chaotic so far as they try to go for this middle objective. And that's just the way how things go on this particular map, Vertigo. And so we're going to see how exactly they decide to go for this retake here with Brittany Bad still being on site.
Yeah, and remember, we were talking about this earlier because the last time that we were at this particular site on the elevation, it was definitely one-sided in the favor of HTK because they're not playing strictly to the close range, whereas we see Antimatter, they're both rocking the LMPs, and this is a more open area. This is a more open site, so that Hydra does have a slight advantage here.
Yep, and so now we see here Antimatter Gaming is just in a tough situation. This is the final round of this particular map, and so now Wolfie has to try to do her best to be able to, you know, ultimately win this particular matchup up, but it's going to seem like that's probably not going to happen unless something absolutely magical happens here, Cap.
Yeah, you got to keep in mind, not only do you have to go in this 1v2, but they have 5 lives on top of that. But guess what? They will have no more on the side of Antimatter Gaming. As you will see, HTK Esports are able to take the series 3-2.
Yep, and that's going to be a definite confidence booster for them for sure, especially considering that the way that they lost that particular first map. And so it's been very impressive to see how they've been able to bounce back. It's definitely a tough loss for our hostess, Wolfie, for sure, as you can see on her face there. But it was a very, very competitive matchup. And so I'm very, very excited to see how exactly they decide to play things out in the future.
Absolutely. And again, you got to keep in mind that it did really go down to the wire. We saw a real back and forth, which is what we were hoping to see, because like we were talking about, we saw a lot of sweeps throughout the day. A lot of those 3-0s and everything else really kind of one-sided. So being able to see that one go all the way to a Game 3 was nothing short of just absolute entertainment.
Yeah, I have to agree. And so that's going to make things very, very interesting in the future, because now both teams have pretty much showed that, hey, we may have had a tough time starting out, but at the end of the day, we're not just some team that you can just easily smoke out of competition. And so they're going to be back, and they're going to be back with a vengeance for sure, especially on the side of HTK.
Yeah, that they are. And keep in mind, now they have a little bit more momentum, because they will be actually being able to take a win here today, you know, because, again, these were the two teams that so far didn't have a win on the board. So now getting ready to head into their next matchup, they know that they can, as a matter of fact, take some wins and get the job done. But with that being said, we're going to continue to work here at the RCCS, and we will be right back with some more of the Rogue Company Championship Series very shortly. So do not go anywhere.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Rogue Company Championship Series. We are in the middle of the ladies' main event matches going down, and we just got to witness a pretty interesting match against Antimatter Gaming going up against HTK Esports. HTK Esports was able to come out on top in 2-1 fashion, and now we have a very, very, very interesting situation here, because, I mean, if you look at these pools, you got one team that's 2-0, one team that's 0-2, and then two teams that are 1-1. So things are starting to even out with the ladies right now.
I got to agree with you, and that's all about the format that we're seeing. Strikeout is proving that, and even from that last map alone, we had to wait a little while, and it was well worth the wait, right? It went 2-2, and it went down to that final round. This is really close, and even though people are losing maps and losing series, it's anyone's game at this point, I'd have to say.
And that just shows exactly how close the competition is between all these ladies, and it's exactly what you love to see. And shout out to everybody in the chat to see all you guys supporting all these ladies, all the teams that you guys are super supportive of. It's great to see it in the chat for sure. And I mean, we can look at the replays right here coming out. This series, it was intense. It was back and forth. Both of these duos were able to show dominating sides, and also, you know, I'm pretty sure they learned some things as well while they were going through. They went through some growing pains, each of them, and they were able to figure things out and make it work. We especially saw the Hydra really coming out from Brittany. Brittany was really using that Hydra extremely well. And GK, what are your thoughts on the Hydra overall? Because we haven't really seen that used all too much today.
I think it's an underrated gun, Rome, because it has so much damage power, but it's just the fire rate that is. So if you miss a bullet, you've ended up missing 2 bullets on a different gun, right? So you really have to make every bullet count. But if you do hit every bullet, you're winning the gunfight, especially with the range as well. So you don't have to put yourself in that awkward position to get that kill. And one more thing I would like to say is it's great seeing that new map on the live stream, right? Vertigo is really, really playing out well, especially in this Strikeout 2v2 format.
Oh, for sure. 2v2 Strikeout, it's a treat to witness, and especially on the new map, Vertigo. You love to see that for sure. Shout out to all the people like on the back end making maps. Like, you guys are doing great jobs. I loved all the new maps. So let's go ahead right now and toss it over to an interview with one of our winners, Brittany Bad, interviewed by Heartbreaker.
Yes, thank you so much. We have Brittany Bad, but at this point, it might be Brittany Good, because you are slaying out, and I have to draw attention to exactly what GK said on the desk. The Hydra.
Yes.
That's not typical. People are running SMGs. It's an SMG meta, and you're whipping out the Hydra. So walk me through this process.
So honestly, like, I would say both guns amazing. Obviously, LMP is the meta right now, and everyone would say that. But for some reason, like, the Hydra just feels more comfortable for me. I think I've just been spending more time on it recently, so it just feels right. And it's kind of same with my partner. She uses D40 sometimes, and maybe we just make off-meta work.
I was going to ask about that. That was the next question. Is it's not just you. I mean,
Yeah.
even Miss Miller Ray is running an SMG that isn't one that people normally use. And so do you think it benefits you guys at all, just that maybe you can take fights slightly differently, or is it just what you're comfortable with?
Even in between, I was talking to Wolfie, and she was like, we would go to pick up your guns, like, after killing, and then she was like, what is this? Like, this isn't what I use. So maybe it does. It catches people a bit off guard. They're not really used to playing against it as much,
And so you guys started with a rougher showing, right? You ended up losing a tough one, but you bounce back here. How does that leave you feeling now that you've managed to kind of even yourself out?
It makes me feel more confident going into the next game. I mean, obviously, the first one we hadn't played, and we didn't really have a lot of time to warm up. So I think now that we're a bit more warmed up, I feel more comfortable, yeah.
Okay, and so moving forward, are you wanting to get like revenge, or are you just looking to play whoever you play? Is there anybody in particular you're hoping like, okay, that's what I want to take on?
I mean, it would be great to be able to beat Ali and Vaf. I don't know if that'll be in the cards for us this weekend, but I mean, they're definitely the team to beat for me.
Well, hey, you keep shooting like that, dropping 5,000 damage. You certainly have a shot. Thank you so much for stopping in to chat with us, and we'll be throwing it back to the desk.
Sweet.